Hi, I'm Ashley Kerr, and I am here with my contractor, Riley McFarland, and we're going to talk about our flips that we currently have going on and how they may be similar, but also very different. So these properties are what, 5 minutes away from each other?
Yeah, give or take. Yeah.
Okay, so Riley is doing a flip that is a lot larger than mine, and mine is a lot smaller, but he is the contractor on both. And so, what do you think is the biggest difference between our flips, even though they are in the same market?
So my house that I'm flipping is, since it's so big and it's in a little bit more affluent neighborhood, I've made a lot of choices with design and layout. It's a lot different than this. So this would be more of what I would say a mass appeal. So we're trying to do everything neutral, make it so you'll have more buyers. Whereas my flip is more of a higher end clientele where there probably won't be as many buyers, but they're going to want really nice high end finishes.
Yeah, so a luxury flip. And if you guys follow James Daynard or Leica DeVathu, you can see that they both do those too in their portfolios is the luxury flips. And I'm sure there's lots of other investors that do that too. But also, like me, you get the less risky investor who goes for the masses. And you'll find flippers that actually do the same paint, the same finishes in each of their flips that they do, because it is just the standard, almost like affordable home for people that you're doing. You're not doing anything special and really trying to appeal to a unique buyer. Where for me, when I picked out the finishes for this property, I'm looking at budget, and I'm also looking at what will appeal to the masses. So I'm not going out and doing anything crazy aesthetically. I'm not painting a color orange, or I'm not putting in, a beautiful wallpaper, anything like that. I'm being very safe with my investment so that it will appeal to the masses. But there's also room for somebody to take this property and make it into their own, where they could add their own wallpaper. They can make their own customization.
Yeah, and that's a good point you made about budget too, because we have a budget on this house, and I'm sticking to it the best I possibly can. My budget is double what this budget is, so I can afford to make choices that grand tile, freestanding tubs. I also have 3.5 bathrooms, whereas this only has 1.5. So it's a lot more. It's just a bigger scale, and I'm trying to appeal to the high-end market. For example, the primary suite that we're doing has a freestanding tub, a walk-in shower, really nice vanity. It's got skylights and downlighting. I mean, it's really fancy. So I'm trying to make it like a luxury hotel bathroom, if you will.
And I think one of the big differences too is that sometimes when you get into these higher price point properties, there's an even larger margin for profit. So that is also a big difference, is that you have the room to have a bigger budget because your profit margin is larger when you get into these higher end properties, because they're going to be sell for so much more. Where right here, this house costs $161,000, where it's the ARV is about going to be around like 240, 250, depending on what it actually sells for. But that's when you're looking at somebody who's buying a $250,000 house, the difference between 240 and 250, that's kind of like a decision that needs to be made is, okay, I'm going to pay that extra 10 grand. That's kind of a lot. But when you get up to the $600,000 houses, that's where you get to the point, okay, like 610, like that's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Going from 600 to maybe 700, then that's where it becomes a big deal. So you have that kind of flexibility, I guess, in your budget because you're making more of a profit.
Yeah. And one thing that I noticed as well, so I'm doing these flips at the same time. My house is close to 5,000 square feet.
Yeah.
This is 1,000. So just painting that, it's a mansion. I mean, it has coffered ceilings and posts and beams and curved walls, and it's very, like, just painting it took 3 times the amount of time.
Yeah. Well, this painting in this property for 1,000 square feet costs $5,000. So you can kind of
so you
imagine
can
what
triple
it is.
that basically.
Plus, with the tall ceilings, it's even more work.
And just the time it takes to that was the biggest difference between, I mean, I did probably 75-80% of the work here already in a matter of weeks, whereas at my house I've been there for months.
Yeah. So what is one thing that you wished you already in this process of your flip that you would have done differently before you actually started the flip?
Just get more people on site. Because I was relying on my painter and my drywaller that are used to houses this size. And they like to come in and just, knock it out, be in and out in a week. And they're so busy because they're subcontractors that they were kind of coming and going from my house. And I was like, well, then now it's at a standstill. So I kind of wish I would have at least talked to them and kind of gave them, walked them through and be like, this is the scale and I need you for this amount of time.
Right.
3 weeks versus 1 week.
Yeah, that's a great point. And one of the things that I wish I would have done differently is scheduled my design ahead of time, because Riley would kept texting and asking, what are your tile choices? What are your tile choices? And first of all, it wasn't that I didn't have time to go pick them out. It was that I was so indecisive, and I knew what the cabinets were going to be. I knew what the countertops were going to be. I could have, picked out the tile way ahead of time and had that set and ready for Riley instead of stressing about it last minute. So that's something I wish I would have done differently, is had a more detailed spec sheet as to here are the finishes that I want in the property when we kind of started. Like, all Riley knew was that I wanted tile in these places, but not specifically what kind of tile, what color of tile, or what style of tile. And I wish I would have had that prepared ahead of time.
Yeah, I was kind of bugging you a lot about the tile.
I need to be thanked.
Yeah. I mean, up until the point of actually setting the tile, pretty much all the prep work is the same. So it wasn't holding me back or delaying the time frame. But it was getting to the point. I'm like, okay, we're ready to set tile now. We need to make some solid choices so I can have it here and get ready and get it done.
Okay, so is there anything else that you can think of as far as like doing a higher end flip? As far as you talked a little bit about the finishes, how you're going to, you're spending more money, you're doing something to appeal to a high end a buyer. What are some of those finishes that you're actually doing different than maybe I picked for here?
Yeah, so very like bold as well. So I talked about the primary, large format. I did 2 foot by 4 foot tiles, large format tiles, and they're very loud, and it's gold accents, and it's probably something that is a taste or a preference for someone, but it might not mass appeal to everybody. Yeah. But to someone who's looking to spend, let's say, $600,000, they might be accustomed to that type of custom look in their bathroom.
Okay, so next question: as an investor and a contractor, how much money do you think you are saving in labor by being your own GC and not having to hire someone to do it?
Yeah, so I would think that my deal probably wouldn't make any money if I wasn't there doing all the work. I tried to think about if I had contracted this with a homeowner, and I think I probably would have been about $100,000 more. Yeah. So if I were to hire it out, that's $100,000 of profit on my flip. I think it still would make money at that point, but it's definitely saving me a ton of money.
Well, there's always this debate about, okay, should I spend my own time to do it? And then, all these gurus are saying, no, you shouldn't be doing any of the work. You need to learn how to outsource it, which that is a very valid point too. But looking at the fact that how much time is this property taking from start to finish?
My property?
Yeah.
Our original target was 3 months, and it's probably going to be about 3.5, 4 months.
Okay, and then by the time it closes, say 6 months, maybe from you closing on it to it closing. Okay, so 6 months, and what do you estimate your profit is going to be off of that?
We're targeted to be about $180,000.
Okay, so $180,000 in 6 months. And you are spending time working there. You're managing contractors. You're going to Home Depot, I'm sure, doing all the errands for it. And also, you're working at this property. I'm sure you're still doing some of the maintenance for rental properties, things like that.
Yeah, I'm actually buying 5 more units right now, too.
So think about that. In 6 months, even though he is putting in sweat equity, he is definitely getting the money back for his time spent working on this project. So
it's important to note, too, that it's delayed gratification.
Yeah.
So I'm 3 months in on this project, and I haven't made a dime for myself.
Exactly. And you know what? That is such a good point, because I think that is really hard for some people, is knowing, like, okay, for the next 6 months, especially if you're first starting out, maybe you quit your job or something like that, is realizing, okay, not having that steady income anymore. I know that I have to grind and budget for my personal finances the next several months because I'm not generating as much income as I was, because now I'm putting all my time and effort into my own property. But at the end of the 6 months, it will be worth it. Because think about how many other jobs you could have picked up during this time frame if you weren't working on your own flip.
Exactly. Yeah, for customers. But that is a luxury that I have because of my rental portfolio.
Yeah.
Is that it generates enough cash flow that I don't have to worry about getting paid every month, and I can wait 4 or 5, 6 months while I'm doing a flip and then recoup the money. I don't need to worry about, paying my own personal bills because I have that covered. So that's nice.
That's if somebody has a W-2, like maybe that's a reason not to just quit your W-2, is to keep your W-2, work on your property at nights, work at your property on weekends, and not worry and have that stress of paying your own personal bills along with making your property a success and getting the project done too.
Yeah, I feel like that's a much bigger gamble for somebody in that position, whereas to me it's not a gamble.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of friends too that ask me about it and they're interested in getting into it. I'm like, hey man, you're married, you have kids, you have a full-time job. It's like, I don't have any of those. I mean, my full-time job is doing this.
Yeah.
But I was like, you have a lot more responsibilities than I do. So my gamble is not as big as other people's gamble.
Yeah, that's a great point too. And I think anyone considering taking time away from their everyday lives to actually put in sweat equity into a property, is you really have to want it enough to do it first of all. But make sure you have a solid plan for your personal finances, but also for anything extra that comes up in the property too, any extra expenses. So if you're just barely scraping by and all of a sudden you find out you need to do another, repair because they opened a wall and there's an electrical issue, whatever it may be, make sure you have those reserves in place. You have a contingency on top of your budget that you can tap into when you're doing your project too. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you, Riley, for sharing about your flip. Comment below if you want us to do a video walkthrough of Riley's flip when it is all complete.